Zero-Based Budgeting by James Fisher. Introduction. Zero-based budgeting is one of the most effective ways to take full control of your finances, yet many people overlook it in favor of traditional budgeting methods. Most people create a budget based on what they spent last month, making small adjustments here and there, but never truly questioning where their money is going. This approach often leads to financial leaks, small, unnecessary expenses that add up over time. Zero-based budgeting changes that by forcing you to justify every dollar before you spend it. Instead of assuming that past spending habits should dictate future decisions, this method requires you to build a new plan from scratch each month. Every dollar you earn is assigned a job, whether it's paying for necessities, eliminating debt, or saving for future goals. Nothing is left unaccounted for, and nothing is spent mindlessly. Chapter 1. Zero-based budgeting is a financial strategy that requires you to assign every dollar of your income to a specific purpose. Unlike traditional budgeting methods that rely on past spending patterns, zero-based budgeting starts from scratch each month. The idea is simple: your total income minus your total expenses should equal zero. This doesn't mean you spend everything you earn, but rather that every dollar is allocated, whether for bills, savings, investments, or debt repayment. Instead of letting money sit unaccounted for, you make a conscious decision about where it should go. This method forces you to be intentional about your finances and ensures that nothing is wasted. The biggest difference between zero-based budgeting and traditional budgeting is how expenses are determined. Many people use a fixed budget where they look at last month's spending and make minor adjustments. If they spent $400 on groceries last month, they assume they will need the same amount this month. If they paid $100 toward their credit card, they continue making the same payment without thinking about how much they could afford to pay. This method creates a false sense of stability because it assumes that past spending habits should dictate future financial decisions. Zero-based budgeting removes that assumption and forces you to reevaluate your expenses every month. Instead of blindly repeating previous spending patterns, you start with a clean slate and allocate money based on your current needs and priorities. One of the key benefits of zero-based budgeting is that it helps eliminate financial waste. Most people have unnecessary expenses that they don't even realize are draining their income. Small purchases like daily coffee runs, impulse buys, and unused subscriptions can add up quickly. Without a detailed plan, money often disappears without a clear understanding of where it went. Zero-based budgeting exposes these hidden expenses and forces you to decide if they are truly necessary. It makes spending a conscious choice rather than an automatic habit. People who switch to zero-based budgeting are often surprised by how much money they free up simply by rethinking their spending habits. Another major advantage of zero-based budgeting is that it aligns your spending with your financial goals. Many people struggle to save money or pay off debt because they don't actively prioritize these goals. They set vague intentions, like wanting to save more or reduce their credit card balance, but without a clear plan, these goals are often pushed aside by day-to-day expenses. Zero-based budgeting ensures that savings and debt repayment are built into the budget as non-negotiable expenses. Instead of saving whatever is left over at the end of the month, if anything, money is allocated to savings first. This approach transforms saving from an afterthought into a deliberate financial decision. Some people assume that zero-based budgeting is only for those who are struggling financially, but it is a powerful tool for anyone who wants to take control of their money. Even high earners can benefit from this method because it prevents lifestyle inflation. Many people increase their spending as their income rises, leading to a cycle where they never truly feel financially secure, no matter how much they earn. With zero-based budgeting, every increase in income is assigned a purpose, whether it's saving, investing, or paying off debt. This prevents unnecessary spending and ensures that financial progress continues as income grows. The flexibility of zero-based budgeting is another reason why it works so well. Unlike rigid budgeting methods that allocate the same amount to each category every month, zero-based budgeting adapts to your needs. If one month requires higher spending in a particular category, such as holiday shopping or car repairs, the budget is adjusted accordingly. This allows you to plan for upcoming expenses instead of reacting to them when they arise. The ability to make adjustments each month ensures that your budget remains relevant to your financial situation. An example of zero-based budgeting in action is a couple who found themselves constantly short on money despite earning decent salaries. They were using a traditional budget that relied on estimates, but they often overspent in certain categories without realizing it. When they switched to zero-based budgeting, they tracked every expense and assigned every dollar a job. Within the first month, they identified over $600 in unnecessary expenses, including multiple streaming subscriptions, frequent takeout meals, and impulse purchases. By reallocating that money, they were able to start an emergency fund and make extra payments on their credit card debt. Within a year, they had saved over $7,000 and paid off 2 credit cards. Another example is a freelancer with inconsistent income who struggled to manage her finances. Because her paychecks varied each month, traditional budgeting didn't work for her. She often found herself overspending when she had a high-income month, then scrambling to cover expenses during slower months. Zero-based budgeting allowed her to create a plan that adjusted to her fluctuating income. She allocated money for essentials first, set aside a portion for savings, and created a buffer fund for low-income months. Over time, this approach gave her financial stability and reduced the stress of unpredictable earnings. Zero-based budgeting may require a shift in mindset, but once it becomes a habit, it is one of the most effective ways to manage money. It provides complete financial clarity, prevents wasteful spending, and helps you stay on track with your goals. Whether you want to get out of debt, save for the future, or simply gain better control over your finances, this method offers a practical and powerful solution. By giving every dollar a purpose, you take control of your money instead of letting it control you. Chapter 2. Setting up a zero-based budget begins with understanding exactly how much money you bring in and how much you need to cover your expenses. Unlike traditional budgeting methods, where you estimate based on past spending, this approach requires a fresh start every month. You begin by listing your total income, followed by categorizing and assigning every dollar a purpose until there is nothing left unaccounted for. The goal is not to spend everything, but to ensure that every dollar is intentionally directed toward a specific financial goal. This process may take time in the beginning, but once it becomes a habit, it creates financial clarity and control. The first step is calculating your total monthly income. For those with a regular paycheck, this is straightforward. But for freelancers, business owners, or anyone with inconsistent earnings, it requires some strategic planning. In cases of variable income, using an average of past earnings or working with the lowest expected income ensures that all necessary expenses are covered. Any extra income that comes in above the planned budget can then be allocated to savings, debt repayment, or other financial goals. The key is to work with a realistic number so that the budget remains reliable throughout the month. Once income is determined, the next step is listing every expense. This includes essentials like rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, and transportation, as well as discretionary spending such as entertainment, dining out, and hobbies. Many people forget to account for irregular expenses like annual insurance payments, car maintenance, or holiday gifts, which can throw off a budget if not planned for in advance. One way to manage these costs is by setting aside money in advance, breaking down large, infrequent expenses into monthly contributions. For example, if car insurance is due once a year and costs $1,200, setting aside $100 each month prevents financial strain when the payment is due. A common mistake people make when setting up a budget is underestimating their actual spending. Many people believe they spend less on dining out, shopping, or entertainment than they really do. Tracking expenses for at least 1 month before creating a budget can help identify spending patterns and highlight areas where money may be slipping away unnoticed. This level of awareness is crucial because it ensures that the budget reflects reality rather than assumptions. A budget based on inaccurate numbers will quickly fall apart, leading to frustration and failure. Once expenses are categorized, the next step is prioritizing financial goals. Zero-based budgeting allows for a structured approach to saving and debt repayment by treating them as necessary expenses rather than optional ones. Many people struggle to save money because they attempt to do so with whatever is left at the end of the month. This approach rarely works, as unplanned expenses often arise, leaving little to no money for savings. With zero-based budgeting, savings are assigned a specific dollar amount, just like rent or groceries, ensuring that financial progress is made consistently. Debt repayment is another important component of a zero-based budget. Minimum payments must always be included, but allocating extra money toward high-interest debt can accelerate financial freedom. A common strategy is the debt snowball method, where the smallest debts are paid off first for quick wins, or the debt avalanche method, where the highest interest debt is tackled first to save money on interest. Regardless of the method chosen, zero-based budgeting ensures that debt repayment is not an afterthought but a core part of the financial plan. One of the biggest challenges people face when implementing zero-based budgeting is dealing with unexpected expenses. Emergencies, medical bills, or home repairs can derail a budget if there is no financial cushion in place. This is why creating an emergency fund is essential. Even setting aside a small amount each month builds a financial buffer that prevents reliance on credit cards or loans when unexpected costs arise. Many people assume they cannot afford to save, but even small contributions add up over time. A budget that includes emergency savings as a regular expense helps build long-term financial security. To make zero-based budgeting effective, tracking spending throughout the month is essential. Many people create a budget but fail to monitor it, leading to overspending in certain categories. Using a budgeting app, spreadsheet, or even a simple notebook to track daily expenses keeps spending in check and ensures that adjustments can be made if needed. If one category runs low, money can be shifted from another category to maintain balance, but no dollars should go unaccounted for. This constant awareness prevents financial surprises and ensures that money is being used exactly as planned. An example of zero-based budgeting in action is a family that struggled to manage their finances despite a steady income. They frequently found themselves short on cash before payday and relied on credit cards to cover expenses. After implementing a zero-based budget, they tracked every dollar and identified unnecessary spending. They realized they were spending nearly $300 a month on takeout without realizing it. By reallocating that money, they created an emergency fund and started paying off debt. Within 6 months, they had built a $2,000 savings cushion and paid off a credit card balance that had been lingering for years. Another example is a young professional who lived paycheck to paycheck despite earning a decent salary. He had no clear financial goals and often spent money impulsively. When he switched to zero-based budgeting, he assigned every dollar a purpose, including contributions to savings and investments. Within a year, he had saved enough for a down payment on a home, something he had previously believed was out of reach. The simple act of being intentional with his money allowed him to make progress toward a goal that had once seemed impossible. Zero-based budgeting is not about restricting spending. It is about making sure money is being used effectively. It provides a clear financial roadmap, eliminates wasteful spending, and ensures that financial goals are prioritized. By assigning every dollar a job, financial decisions become deliberate rather than reactive. Whether the goal is to build savings, eliminate debt, or simply gain better control over finances, setting up a zero-based budget is the first step toward financial freedom. Chapter 3. Adjusting to a zero-based budget requires a shift in mindset and habits. Many people are used to a more passive approach to budgeting, where they estimate expenses, leave extra money unaccounted for, and rely on their bank balance to guide their spending. Zero-based budgeting eliminates financial guesswork and replaces it with intentional decision-making. This transition can feel overwhelming at first, but once the process becomes routine, it provides a level of financial clarity and control that is hard to achieve with other budgeting methods. The key is to remain flexible, patient, and committed to the system, especially in the first few months when unexpected challenges arise. One of the biggest adjustments is learning to plan ahead. Traditional budgeting often allows for last-minute spending decisions, but zero-based budgeting forces individuals to think about their financial needs before the month begins. This means anticipating upcoming expenses, such as birthdays, car maintenance, or seasonal costs, and ensuring they are accounted for in the budget. Many people struggle with this initially because they are not used to thinking several weeks or months ahead when it comes to money. However, as they get better at predicting expenses, the budget becomes more accurate and financial surprises become less frequent. Another challenge is resisting the temptation to overspend in certain categories. Many people underestimate how much they typically spend on discretionary expenses like dining out, entertainment, and shopping. Without careful tracking, small purchases can add up quickly and throw the budget off balance. One way to manage this is by using cash or separate bank accounts for discretionary spending. For example, some people withdraw a set amount of cash each month for non-essential expenses, and once it is gone, they stop spending. Others use separate bank accounts or prepaid debit cards to limit spending in specific categories. These strategies make it easier to stick to the budget and prevent impulse purchases from derailing financial goals. One of the most frustrating parts of adjusting to zero-based budgeting is dealing with unexpected expenses. No matter how well a budget is planned, unexpected costs will always arise. A medical bill, a sudden car repair, or a home maintenance issue can disrupt the most carefully crafted budget. This is why an emergency fund is crucial. Many people assume that they cannot afford to set money aside for emergencies, but even small contributions each month can make a significant difference over time. Having a financial cushion prevents the need to use credit cards or dip into savings when an unplanned expense comes up. Those who do not yet have an emergency fund should prioritize building one as part of their budget, even if they can only contribute a small amount each month. Some people struggle with the feeling of restriction when transitioning to a zero-based budget. They may feel that having every dollar accounted for limits their ability to enjoy their money. However, zero-based budgeting does not mean eliminating fun or discretionary spending. It simply ensures that these expenses are planned for. Instead of spending money impulsively, individuals can create a category in their budget for entertainment, dining out, or hobbies. Knowing that there is money set aside for enjoyment can actually make spending more enjoyable because there is no guilt or financial stress attached to it. Over time, many people find that they appreciate their discretionary spending more because they are making intentional choices rather than spending mindlessly. A common mistake people make when adjusting to a zero-based budget is expecting perfection. The first few months will almost always include errors, miscalculations, or unexpected changes. Some months may require adjustments due to fluctuating income, while others may reveal overlooked expenses. The key is to remain flexible and view budgeting as an ongoing process rather than a one-time setup. Many people find it helpful to review their budget weekly or bi-weekly to ensure they're staying on track and to make small adjustments as needed. Over time, these adjustments become second nature, and the budgeting process becomes smoother. Another important aspect of adjusting to zero-based budgeting is learning to communicate about money, especially for those who share finances with a spouse or partner. Many couples struggle with financial disagreements because they approach money differently. One person may prioritize saving, while the other values experiences and spending. Zero-based budgeting requires both individuals to participate in the budgeting process and agree on financial priorities. This can lead to difficult conversations, but it also fosters transparency and helps couples work together towards shared financial goals. Setting regular budget meetings to review spending and adjust allocations can help maintain harmony and ensure that both partners feel heard and involved. An example of someone adjusting to zero-based budgeting is a woman who had always relied on estimating her expenses rather than tracking them. When she switched to zero-based budgeting, she realized she had been spending far more than she thought on subscription services, online shopping, and takeout. By carefully reviewing her spending and assigning every dollar a job, she was able to cut unnecessary expenses and redirect that money toward paying off debt. Within 6 months, she had paid off a lingering credit card balance and started saving for a long-term financial goal that had previously seemed out of reach. Another example is a small business owner who struggled with inconsistent income. Before using zero-based budgeting, he found himself constantly worried about whether he would have enough money to cover both personal and business expenses. By implementing a zero-based budget, he began allocating money toward essential expenses first, then using the remaining funds to build a financial cushion for slower months. Over time, this approach provided him with greater stability, allowing him to plan ahead rather than reacting to financial stress each month. Adjusting to zero-based budgeting requires commitment, but the rewards are well worth the effort. It creates financial discipline, eliminates unnecessary spending, and ensures that money is being used in a way that aligns with personal goals. While the initial transition may be challenging, those who stick with it often find themselves in a stronger financial position than ever before. By staying flexible, tracking expenses, and making adjustments as needed, anyone can make zero-based budgeting work for their unique financial situation. The key is consistency. Over time, the process becomes second nature and financial confidence grows with each passing month. Chapter 4. Many people start a zero-based budget with excitement, only to find themselves struggling with challenges they did not anticipate. Some of these difficulties stem from habits formed over years of unstructured spending, while others arise from unpredictable expenses or fluctuating income. Understanding these common obstacles and knowing how to navigate them can mean the difference between success and frustration. Zero-based budgeting requires discipline and consistency, but with the right approach, anyone can overcome the challenges and make the system work in their favor. One of the biggest hurdles people face is the time and effort required to plan each month's budget. Unlike traditional budgeting methods that allow for rough estimates and general spending categories, zero-based budgeting demands careful planning and precise allocations. Many people find this overwhelming at first, especially if they are not used to tracking their expenses. The key is to simplify the process by using budgeting tools, apps, or even a spreadsheet to automate calculations. While it may take longer in the beginning, as people become more familiar with their spending habits, budgeting becomes a quicker and smoother process. Another common struggle is dealing with irregular expenses. Many people fail to account for expenses that do not occur every month, such as car repairs, medical bills, or annual insurance payments. When these costs arise unexpectedly, they can throw an entire budget off balance. One way to solve this problem is by creating sinking funds, separate savings allocations for specific expenses that will come up eventually. By setting aside a small amount each month for things like car maintenance, holiday gifts, or home repairs, the financial impact of these irregular costs becomes much more manageable. Over time, these small contributions prevent larger financial disruptions and reduce stress. Fluctuating income can also make zero-based budgeting challenging. People who work on commission, freelance, or have irregular paychecks may struggle to allocate their income when they are unsure of how much they will make. The best way to handle this situation is by working with a conservative estimate based on the lowest expected income. If more money comes in than expected, it can be allocated toward savings, debt repayment, or future expenses. Creating a buffer fund specifically for months with lower earnings can also provide stability, ensuring that essential bills are always covered. One of the most frustrating challenges is sticking to the budget once it is created. Many people underestimate how easy it is to overspend in certain categories, especially when unexpected opportunities or temptations arise. Dining out, online shopping, and entertainment can quickly drain money that was allocated for other purposes. One way to combat this is by using cash envelopes or separate bank accounts for discretionary spending. Physically seeing how much money is left in a category makes it easier to stay on track and prevents impulsive decisions that can derail financial progress. Another issue that arises is the temptation to abandon the budget after making mistakes. People often feel discouraged if they overspend in one category or if an unplanned expense forces them to shift their allocations. The important thing to remember is that budgeting is not about perfection, it is about progress. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, they should be seen as learning opportunities. Reviewing what went wrong and making adjustments ensures that the same mistakes are not repeated. No one gets budgeting right 100% of the time, but those who continue refining their approach will eventually see significant improvements in their financial situation. Many couples and families also struggle with implementing a zero-based budget because they have different spending priorities. One partner may be more frugal, while the other prefers to enjoy money more freely. This can lead to frustration and conflict if not handled properly. The best way to overcome this challenge is through open and honest communication. Setting aside time each month to discuss financial goals, review the budget, and make joint decisions helps ensure that both partners feel heard and involved. Compromises may need to be made, But when both people are on the same page, financial planning becomes a shared effort rather than a source of tension. Another challenge is dealing with external pressures and social expectations. Many people feel obligated to spend money on social events, gifts, or activities simply because others expect them to. This can make it difficult to stick to a budget, especially if friends or family members have different financial habits. Learning to say no to unnecessary expenses and setting clear financial boundaries is an essential part of making a budget work. Those who struggle with this can create a separate budget category for social expenses, allowing them to participate in activities without overspending or feeling guilty. An example of overcoming budgeting challenges is a single mother who struggled to make ends meet despite working full-time. When she first tried zero-based budgeting, she found it difficult to track her expenses and plan ahead. After a few months of trial and error, she started using a budgeting app to simplify the process and created sinking funds for school supplies, car repairs, and other irregular expenses. This change allowed her to break free from the cycle of financial stress and start saving money consistently. Another example is a young couple who constantly argued about money because they had different spending habits. One person preferred saving, while the other enjoyed spontaneous purchases. When they adopted zero-based budgeting, they set clear spending limits and created personal allowances for each partner. This allowed them both to have financial freedom within a structured plan, reducing conflicts and improving their financial stability. By working together and adjusting their budget each month, they were able to save for a home while still enjoying small luxuries. The most important thing to remember when facing challenges with zero-based budgeting is that setbacks are normal. Budgeting is a skill that takes time to develop, and no one follows their plan perfectly all the time. The key to success is consistency. Those who commit to the process, make adjustments when needed, and stay focused on their financial goals will eventually experience the benefits of complete financial control. With patience and persistence, anyone can overcome the challenges of zero-based budgeting and create a financial system that supports their long-term success. Chapter 5. Money is more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It is tied to emotions, habits, and deep-seated beliefs that shape the way people spend, save, and manage their finances. Zero-based budgeting does more than provide a structured way to allocate income. It changes the way people think about money. It forces individuals to confront their financial habits, recognize patterns, and make more intentional choices. This shift in mindset can be both empowering and challenging, as it requires breaking old habits and building new ones that align with long-term financial goals. One of the first psychological changes people experience with zero-based budgeting is an increased awareness of where their money is going. Before budgeting this way, many people have a general idea of their income and expenses, but lack a clear picture of how much they truly spend in different areas. When every dollar has a specific job, there is no room for vague estimates or mindless spending. This can be an eye-opening experience, especially for those who realize they have been spending far more than they thought on things like dining out, subscriptions, or impulse purchases. While this realization can be uncomfortable, it is also the first step toward taking full control of personal finances. Another common emotional reaction to zero-based budgeting is a sense of restriction. People who are used to spending freely may initially feel that a strict budget takes away their financial freedom. However, as they adjust, they often come to see that the opposite is true. Instead of feeling guilty after making a purchase or wondering if they can afford something, they gain confidence in their spending decisions. Knowing that money is already allocated for essentials, savings, and discretionary spending eliminates financial stress and allows for guilt-free enjoyment of planned expenses. Over time, many people find that budgeting actually enhances their financial freedom by providing clarity and reducing uncertainty. Zero-based budgeting also encourages discipline and delayed gratification. Many people struggle with impulsive spending, especially in a world where online shopping and credit cards make it easy to buy things instantly. This budgeting method forces people to prioritize needs over wants and think carefully about how they allocate their money. If a person wants to make a non-essential purchase, they must first ensure that all necessary expenses are covered. If there is not enough money available, they have to either adjust other budget categories or wait until the next budgeting cycle. While this can be frustrating at first, It helps build healthier spending habits and prevents unnecessary debt. Another psychological challenge that arises with zero-based budgeting is the emotional attachment to certain spending habits. Many people associate spending money with comfort, entertainment, or even their sense of identity. Shopping, dining out, or spontaneous purchases can provide a temporary emotional boost, making it difficult to cut back even when finances demand it. Recognizing these emotional triggers is a crucial part of financial self-awareness. Instead of relying on spending for emotional satisfaction, individuals can explore alternative ways to experience joy and fulfillment, such as hobbies, social activities, or personal development. Making this shift reduces the reliance on money for emotional comfort and fosters a healthier relationship with finances. Zero-based budgeting can also reveal financial fears that people may not have previously acknowledged. Some individuals avoid budgeting altogether because they are afraid to confront their financial situation. Seeing the numbers laid out clearly can be intimidating, especially for those dealing with debt, low income, or financial instability. However, facing financial reality head-on is the only way to make meaningful improvements. Once a person sees exactly where their money is going, they can take practical steps to fix problems, adjust spending, and work toward stability. This sense of control can be incredibly empowering, replacing fear with confidence and motivation. An example of the psychological impact of zero-based budgeting is a man who had always avoided looking at his bank statements because he found it stressful. He lived paycheck to paycheck, often wondering where his money went. When he started zero-based budgeting, he was forced to confront his spending habits and acknowledge that much of his financial stress came from poor planning rather than a lack of income. By giving every dollar a purpose, he reduced financial anxiety and gained confidence in his ability to manage his money. Over time, he shifted from feeling out of control to feeling financially secure. Another example is a woman who struggled with impulse spending. She often bought clothes, electronics, and beauty products on a whim, only to regret the purchases later. When she switched to zero-based budgeting, she created a dedicated category for personal spending. Knowing she had a set amount to spend each month helped her control impulsive decisions. Instead of feeling deprived, she found that she enjoyed her purchases more because they were planned and intentional. This shift in mindset allowed her to balance financial responsibility with personal enjoyment, ultimately improving her overall well-being. One of the most rewarding psychological effects of zero-based budgeting is the shift from short-term thinking to long-term financial planning. Many people focus on their immediate wants and needs, rarely thinking about their financial future. Zero-based budgeting forces individuals to prioritize savings, emergency funds, and long-term goals, making financial stability a priority. As people see their savings grow and their financial situation improve, they gain a sense of security and motivation to continue making smart financial decisions. This long-term perspective reduces stress and increases overall life satisfaction. The mental and emotional journey of zero-based budgeting is different for everyone, but the common thread is increased awareness and control. The process challenges people to break bad habits, develop financial discipline, and redefine their relationship with money. While it may be uncomfortable at first, those who stick with it often experience a transformation in the way they think about spending and saving. The confidence, security, and peace of mind that come from mastering personal finances are well worth the effort. By embracing the psychological shifts that come with zero-based budgeting, anyone can take control of their financial future and build a life that aligns with their goals and values. In conclusion, zero-based budgeting is more than just a financial tool. It is a mindset shift that transforms the way individuals think about money, spending, and saving. By allocating every dollar a specific job, zero-based budgeting encourages intentionality and discipline, ensuring that each dollar is working towards long-term financial goals. While it may initially seem challenging or restrictive, over time, it offers a sense of control and empowerment that can significantly improve one's financial well-being.